There's a Japanese expression called karoshi, which means death from overwork. It could be from stress, sleep deprivation, social isolation, and worse. People don't have time or energy to tend to relationship and family needs because of work obligations. And some people are choosing not to start a family at all. We're seeing almost the exact same situation in China and South Korea, where their population decline is closely related to toxic work culture. Sexism, ageism, and poor decision-making in the workplace are contributing to top talent leaving Japan or jumping ship to foreign companies that offer better pay and work-life balance. Groupthink and resistance to change are why Japanese companies are lagging behind the West in technology innovation. The government has introduced and amended labor-related laws to improve the situation, which are positive shifts in promoting a more sustainable and balanced approach to work. So why is Japanese work culture the way that it is? Why are they the way that they are? Japanese social structure and collectivist values are rooted in long-standing traditions which have shaped the country's values for centuries. During the Edo period between 1603 to 1868, the emperor held the highest position while merchants and peasants held the bottom rank. After World War II, Japan underwent significant reforms, starting with the Constitution of 1947, which introduced democratic principles and individual rights. Japan is a collectivist culture with a homogeneous population. There's a strong emphasis on group cohesion and harmony, known as WAP. This concept prioritizes the collective over individual needs and encourages consensus building and cooperation. This is influenced by Confucian values that emphasize respect for loyalty and authority, as well as Shinto and Buddhist beliefs in community welfare and duty. That's why people in Japan respect queues and don't litter. This mindset instills a sense of responsibility towards the community, but individuals may feel pressure to conform to societal norms and expectations. There's a Japanese idiom that goes, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down." Japanese workplaces often reflect a hierarchical structure with clear lines of authority. Long workdays are an indicator of loyalty and commitment to the organization. Working hard and not giving up are regarded as virtues in Japanese masculinity, so men working long hours are acting consistently with expectations. Conversely, men finishing their work promptly and going home earlier is not consistent with the conventionally favorable image, and that could make a negative impression in the workplace. Of course, this varies between industries, companies, and even within internal teams. Japanese workplace mentality revolves around the idea that workers owe the higher-ups, and that self-dignity is to be sacrificed when needed. When there is conflict at someone at a higher level, even in the face of clear evidence, things tend to be settled based on hierarchy and seniority. People understand the drama. They know who's right, they know who has the bad idea, but nobody does anything because challenging the status quo would be worse. Rather than risk embarrassing their superiors, employees may choose to remain silent or furiously agree and nod to the worst ideas. Lots of promotions are based on visibility and presence within the office, regardless of their actual managerial skills and leadership abilities. There are a lot of old farts who have stayed with one company their entire lives, but they're useless and refuse to retire because they like being a department head. This results in ineffective leadership and poor decision-making. Decision-making in Japan is a slow and consensus-driven process. The Japanese tend to avoid making quick decisions, and they often seek input from multiple stakeholders and need to receive approval from multiple layers of management. This is affecting innovation in Japan, as swift decision-making is crucial in order to capitalize on emerging trends and opportunities. There are memes that Japan is living in 2050 that they're living in the future, but take a look inside some government offices, some traditional offices, nothing is digitized. Japan missed the opportunity to develop a strong software industry, and now they're lagging behind in artificial intelligence. In the 1970s and 80s, Japan was dominating in hardware, and hardware engineers rose to the top of the hierarchy. As explained by Howard Stringer, the former president of Sony, even when software started to gain more relevancy, these engineers' voices were less valued because they were at the bottom, they were younger, they were junior compared to hardware engineers. And now the same thing is happening to machine learning engineers in Japanese companies. You're probably scoffing, Japan isn't special, these issues also occur in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in France, in Germany. Stop, take off your Western lens. Japanese culture tends to value stability and risk aversion by discouraging experimentation and bold initiatives. They give up after one failure. They don't give young people the motivation, opportunities, and freedom to explore creativity. If you feel energized by insightful discussions and brainstorming, you won't get that in a Japanese workplace. Since 1970, Japan has remained at the bottom of the productivity ranking among the G7 nations. Honestly, that's impressive to remain last for the past 50 years. All of these overtime hours are spent doing a whole lot of nothing and using old methods to look busy. For example, some teams still have daily stand-ups or daily reports. What is there to be said daily? A lot of things can be said over email, but some people just like to hear themselves talk at a meeting. During COVID lockdown, some people still had to go into the office to stamp official documents with their personal seal. Stamps are still used to endorse documents, as some organizations will not accept your signature, never mind digital forms or a digital signature. People do not think outside of the box, and this is a Japanese problem. In the World Digital Competitiveness Ranking of 2023, South Korea ranked 6th, Taiwan ranked 9th, Hong Kong ranked 10th, and Japan ranked 32nd. There's a lot of pride in being Japanese. This pride can lead to a reluctance to abandon traditional practices in favor of new or unfamiliar approaches, especially if they are perceived as conflicting with cultural norms and values. People model leadership or the lack thereof from what they've seen in the past. So a lot of poor managers end up copying what their own poor managers did because they don't know any better. Do you guys really think things will change? That's an actual question. Philosophers, sociologists, anthropologists, please discuss. Japan implemented a foreign isolation policy for more than 200 years until some stubborn American pulled up to Tokyo on a ship and said, "Knock knock." Japan was one of the last countries to open up for tourism after more than 2 years of pandemic isolation, and that's because they wanted money, and a lot of people on the internet were complaining. I know that's a bit different, but Japan has always been wary of outside influence. They are afraid of risks. They are not a competitor in the tech industry anymore. Japan defines risk as something dangerous that will lead to a negative outcome. It's only natural that people living in Japan do their best to avoid risk. So what does the future look like for the Japanese workplace? Wait for boomers to retire or die out? But even then, tradition is so ingrained in Japanese culture. But let's start with something positive. Some Japanese companies have implemented flexible work times, which means you're free to work whenever you want as long as you work the company core hours. There are hybrid or remote policies where you can work anywhere in Japan or even anywhere in the world for a limited time. In 2018, Parliament passed the Work Style Reform Bill, which addressed issues related to long working hours, excessive overtime, and poor work-life balance in Japan's corporate culture. It's easy to tell foreigners to just leave, to go back to their country, but life in Japan, and anywhere really, is very enjoyable when you earn a fat salary. So what's happening, particularly in IT, is that talented non-Japanese workers move to foreign companies that have an office in Japan, or they create their own startups or just work for an overseas company to earn in a stronger currency. Some talented Japanese professionals do want to move overseas for more vacation days in Europe, for a higher salary in the United States, or anywhere that encourages creativity. Nobel Prize winner and inventor of the blue LED, Shuji Nakamura, encouraged young Japanese people to leave, to get out of their bubble and see the world and Japan from a different perspective. He also argued that inventors in Japan are not fairly compensated for their work, which stifles innovation and provides zero incentives for employees to be creative. His former company gave him a bonus of 20,000 yen for his patent, which was equivalent to about $180 US. So he sued the company in 2001 and settled for $8 million, then immigrated to the United States. You could argue that these issues are not unique to Japan, that it's a result of capitalist systems, that it's happening all over the world. It's probably both. Let's talk about it.